So, a lot of people really seem to be intrigued by Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case out in Moscow, Idaho. People are way too emotionally entangled with this case. Nobody wants to hear either side of the story. It's like they are so planted on their ideas and what they believe about this case, beside the fact that they don't know anybody involved in this case and they're only looking at it from an outsider's perspective because the gag order on the case doesn't even give us access to the evidence against Bryan Kohberger, and we haven't heard a narrative from Bryan Kohberger. We haven't even heard a denial of the charges from Bryan Kohberger because he stood silent. Whether that means he's guilty or not guilty is up to the jury to decide. There's a lot of people who say there's absolutely no evidence to suggest Bryan Kohberger committed this crime. And then there's others that say there's an abundance of evidence that shows that Bryan Kohberger committed this crime. Well, today I want to read a section of the probable cause affidavit for Bryan Kohberger's arrest to go over what Dylan Mortenson and Bethany Funk said about the night in question, November 12th, 2022 through November 13th, 2022, when they waited 8 hours to make a phone call to 911, where at the end of the day, they still didn't make the phone call. Somebody else showed up, discovered what had happened, and made the phone call using their phone. Make it make sense. But let's jump into this probable cause affidavit and see what the police had to say about it when they arrested Bryan Kohberger. Based on numerous interviews conducted by MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents, as well as my review of evidence, I have learned the following. On the evening of November the 12th, 2022, Chapin, Kernodle are seen by BF, Bethany Funk, at the Sigma Chi House on the University of Idaho campus at 735 Nez Perce Drive from approximately 9 p.m. on November 12th to 1:45 a.m. on November the 13th. Bethany Funk also estimated that at approximately 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Kernodle returned to the King Road residence. Bethany Funk also stated that Chapin did not live in the King Road residence but was a guest of Kernodle. So he was staying all night with his girlfriend, perfectly normal for college students to do. Gonsalves and Mogan were at a local bar, the Corner Club, at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Gonsalves and Mogan can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. on November the 12th and 1:30 a.m. on November the 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogan can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck at 318 South Main Street in downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is also available for public viewing on their website. This video was captured by law enforcement. A private party, redacted, reported that he provided a ride to Gonsalves and Mogan at approximately 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck to the King Road residence. Dylan Mortenson and Bethany Funk both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. Alright, so right there you've got that they all kind of headed home around 1:30, 1:45. They were all home by 2 o'clock and they were all in bed by 4 o'clock. But that's 2 hours. 2 hours that took place with Dylan Mortenson, Bethany Funk, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle all together in the home, right? Maybe they were all together. Maybe they were in their own individual rooms. But they were all apparently in bed by 4 a.m. except for Xana, who got a DoorDash order at 4 a.m. So you have the DoorDash delivery driver come there. Now, what's kind of strange is that by 4 a.m., and then the murders take place between 4:05 a.m. and 4:24 a.m. I mean, we may be off on that time frame by a minute or so either way because it keeps changing. Like, we can find other reasons to narrow that down the more we look, right? At the latest point that I checked, it was about 8 minutes. Now, a lot of people think that you couldn't commit this crime in 8 minutes as one person by yourself with no training. But if you really sit down in silence for 8 minutes, time yourself, you'll realize that 8 minutes is a lot longer than you think it is. Dylan Mortenson stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. Dylan Mortenson stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, Dylan Mortenson said she heard who she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensics download of Kernodle's phone showed this could have also been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. Dylan Mortenson stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Dylan Mortenson stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. Dylan Mortenson then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." So Dylan Mortenson heard somebody, Kaylee, say somebody's in the house. She looked out the door, but she didn't see anything. Then she heard what sounded like crying coming from Xana's room. She looked out the door, but she still didn't see anything. But we've still got one more time to look out the door. So let's get to that real quick. At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up a distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom. Now, if a security camera outside the house is picking up these noises, then Dylan Mortenson and Bethany Funk are most likely also hearing these noises, right? Stick with me there. Dylan Mortenson stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Dylan Mortenson described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past Dylan Mortenson as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked toward the back sliding glass door. Dylan Mortenson locked herself in her room after seeing the male. Dylan Mortenson did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. So on the third time that Dylan looks out the door, she sees a man dressed all in black, wearing a mask that covered his mouth and his nose, bushy eyebrows, 5'10" or taller, athletically built but not a big muscular man, and he walks right past her. Now you have to remember that she's already opened that door twice before. Once because she heard one of her roommates say somebody's in the house, then because she heard what sounded like crying and somebody saying, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." But then she sees a man walking out of the house. And I've stuck with this the entire time. The sheath was left behind, so whoever that man walking out of the house was had to be carrying a knife, and it seems like he would have had blood on him. Maybe he didn't have blood on him. Maybe he was the neatest, most careful serial killer ever. But it's kind of crazy that Dylan Mortenson would hear somebody indicate that there was somebody else in the house, then hear a roommate crying, then see a strange man walking out the house, be frozen in shock while she watches him walk by, but then goes back in her room and does nothing for 8 hours until somebody else shows up and finds what happened and calls 911. How does that happen? If you're in that situation, would you not be reaching out for help? These are college students. It's pretty obvious they're going to have their phone or their laptop within arm's reach at all times. And to think that she didn't text her other roommate, I mean, it did come out at some point. I don't know what the proof of this was, but that she had tried to contact the other roommates and nobody answered. Did Bethany Funk answer? Was Bethany Funk in the same room as her and we've been lied to all over again? Was Bethany Funk even actually in the house? Who knows? I hope we find out more about Dylan Mortenson's story at trial, because up until this point, I can't make heads or tails of it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like a logical reaction to a situation. Maybe she's just an illogical person, or maybe the story doesn't quite go the way she claims it does.